Good day, guys. I hope everyone is fine. So again, welcome back to my channel. And for today's video, we will be talking about folds and faults. Of course, this topic is under Earth and Life Science made easy. Okay, so again, this is Sir AJ Aliado, and we will be learning about stresses, folds, faults, and strains. Okay, so let's begin. So now let's talk about rock deformation. When we say rock deformation, these are now the changes that could happen on our rocks. Yung mga pagbabago na nangyayari sa ating mga rocks. So let's first talk about stress. Stress is a force that could create deformation on rocks in their shape and volume. Okay? So ito yung nagbibigay ng pagbabago sa ating mga rocks. So we have two types of shear stress. One is lithostatic stress and differential stress. On the next slides, we will be discussing these two. Let's now talk first about our lithostatic stress. So it is defined as a rock beneath the Earth's surface experiences equal pressure exerted on it from all directions because the weight of the underlying rock. Okay, so it is like the hydrostatic stress or water pressure that a person feels pressing all over his body when diving down deep in the water. So when we talk about lithostatic stress, this is another stress or the pressure that the rock in a certain area feels. Whether you syempre of course yung nakapatong on the sides and underneath, lahat yan ay nagpupush ng force sa rock, certain rock na to. And most of the time it is equal, okay? Or it is equal rather. It is equal on all sides of the rock. And another type of stress is our differential stress. Rock may experience an additional unequal stress due to tectonic forces. One of this, there are three types. We have your tensional stress, compressional force, and shear stress. When we talk about tensional stress, it is like stretching or hinihila. So rocks are being pulled apart. So hinihila siya from the center. Okay? And then we have here the compressional force where the rocks are being squeezed or pressed together or pushed together. Okay? And lastly, we have your shear stress in where it results to slippage and translation. One by one, we will be discussing this more. Here is an image of the three differential stresses. We have your tension stress, if you would be looking at the upper left corner. We have here your um, we have here tensional stress in where hinihila from the two sides. That's why nagkakaroon ng breakage, nagkakaroon ng punit, kumbaga putol doon sa ating rock. Okay, nahahati ang ating rock due to tensional stress. While when we talk about compressional stress, these are now the pressure or the force na ina-apply natin sa ating rock pushed together o habang tinutulak. And of course, kapag tinulak mo ang rock in both direction, magkakaroon ng bulging on the side, sa taas at saka sa baba, and even on the sides. And we have now here your shear stress. When we talk about shear stress, these are now the stresses na nagkakaroon ng push and pull or sideways na pressure or force, hinihila yung isang side and the other side is sinatulak, just like the image below. Okay, kontrapelong forces. That's why nagkakaroon ng hate within our rock. So these are now another image showing our differential stress. So let us test your knowledge. Okay, which of the following images, the first one, the second one, or the third one, let's call the first image as letter A. We have your second image as your letter B, and the third one as your letter C. So the first part or the first question is, which of the following is a tensional stress? Shows or depicts a tensional stress. Is it A, B, or letter C? And that is correct. The tensional stress is the image letter B. That is correct. Very good. Now let's move on to the next question. Which of the following images depict compressional stress? Is it A, B, or C? That's correct again. Image A shows or depicts now our compressional stress. And of course, shear stress is being shown in letter C. Okay, perfect. Different kinds of stresses on rock. We have again your lithostatic to summarize the first two topics, lithostatic stress and differential stresses. Okay, again in lithostatic stress, the Earth's surface experiences equal pressure. Okay, equal, pantay-pantay na pressure exerted from all direction because of the weight of the overlying rock. Okay, and another one is differential stress. Experience additional unequal, okay, hindi pantay na stress due to tectonic forces. We have types of this are your tensional, compressional, and shearing. Ito naman ang depiction of the difference between the lithostatic and differential stress. Okay? So, pantay-pantay ang distribution of force when lithostatic stress or may uniform stress na nagka-compress while in the in your differential stress ay merong bulging because on the side, as you can see in the image, sa side po niya ay mas nagko-concentrate ang ating force, hereby pushing now our molecules or the rock to the sides. Let us now talk about rock deformation. Unequal pulls and pushes on the rocks from different directions may become greater than the elastic limits of the rocks. Hence, rock may be deformed. So it only shows here or says here na our rocks have elastic limits. May limitasyon, kakayahan na mag-expand or mag-bulge ng very, very light or mag-change ng shape. But when we apply force or when they receive forces more than their capabilities or their limits on their elasticity, ay nagkakaroon ng deformation on the rock. When the rocks are deformed, they say that it is under strain. Okay? Strain is a change in size, shape, or volume of a material rock. So again, strain is a change, ang pagbabago sa size, shape, or volume of a material rock. Stress versus strain. When we say stress, it is the applied force acting on the rock. Okay? Again, stress versus strain. When we say stress, it is the force applied acting, okay, on the rock. A force exerted when an object presses on, pulls on, or pushes against another object. While we define now strain as a response, okay, of the rock to an applied stress which involves change of the volume or shape of the rock resulting deformation. Okay? When we say stress, ito po ang cause ng changes, and strain is the effect or the response or the change happened to the rock. Now let's talk about the types of strains. Okay, we have your elastic, your plastic or ductile, and your brittle strain. First, let's talk about your elastic deformation. Elastic deformation is a changes in shape by very small amount in response to the stress. Okay? The deformation is not permanent. For example, in the image as shown on the right, the force now is being applied now to the ruler. Ano po? So, when we applied force sa ruler, nag-bend ng konti, but it goes back to its original form. While when we talk about now plastic strain or ductile strain, it is a permanent strain. When the stress exceeds the strength of the rock will bend or fold. Nagkakaroon ng bending or folding of the rock, pero permanent na siya, unlike your elastic that it goes back. Okay? When we talk about ductile stress or strain rather, it is now the change na permanent. Okay? Nagkakaroon lang ng bending and folding. While when we talk about brittle strain or fracture strain, it is a permanent strain and the rocks will break. Dito na napuputol, na nahahati ang ating rocks. Now let's talk about joints. Joints are now fractures that divide the rocks into parts or blocks which have not been suffered any relative motion along the fracture. Ayan ang image niya. Let's now talk about the formation of joints. Joints are brittle fractures which develop either by tensile failure or by shear failure. When this happens, the rock fractures in a plane parallel to the maximum principal stress and perpendicular to the minimum principal stress, in which the direction in which the rock is being stretched. The larger the number of joints formed after the close of the tectonic cycle and during a slow uplift of the rock. Okay, so these are examples of our joints. It's still fit naman, but we have the fissures now or yung hati due now to the pressure. Let's now talk about faults. Are extremely long and deep break or large crack in a rock. A fracture or break in Earth's lithosphere along which block of rocks move past each other. Okay, if you would notice here, for in this image, meron tayong magkakulay on the lower right na image. May magkakulay dyan na ating rock, but hindi sila magkapantay. Okay, most probably sa sedimentary rock, and hindi sila magkakulay because of now the change or faults. Okay? May umakyat or may bumaba from this. Later on, we will be studying them one by one. And let us now talk about the hanging wall versus foot wall. When we talk about hanging wall, it is not the block above the fault. Okay? And the foot wall is the block below the fault. Okay? So, nasaan ang ating hanging wall and ating foot wall? So, our hanging wall is our block A and the block B is your foot wall. These are different types of your fault. We have your deep slip fault. Movements of rock is mainly vertical direction, rising and sinking, just like your normal fault and reverse fault. Your strike slip is the movement of rocks in chiefly horizontal direction. Okay? Pagtaas at pagbaba ang ating deep slip fault and your strike slip is horizontal direction. And let us talk about the types of fault. First is your normal fault. It is also called a gravity fault. The hanging wall has slipped down in comparison with the foot wall. So, yung hanging wall ang bumababa due to gravity. Okay, yung gravity, or like the third line, gravity causes the hanging wall to slip down. So, yung gravity ang may dahilan bakit bumababa ang ating hanging wall, and the normal fault are from layers being pulled apart. Okay? Unlike now, in the next type of fault is our reverse fault. Okay? The hanging wall moves up relative to the foot wall. This motion is caused by compressional forces and results in shortening. It is called the thrust fault if the deep slope of the fault is small. Okay? Imbes na yung kanina sa ating normal fault, yung hanging wall natin ang umababa. But when we talk about now um, when we talk about reverse fault, yung ating hanging wall ang mas mataas kaysa sa ating foot wall. Reverse fault usually ay ang pag-akyat, and then the thrust fault ay kapag mas mababa ang pag-akyat nito. And we have your strike slip fault. It is the type where the movement of the blocks of the rock is chiefly in the horizontal direction. Kung kanina pataas at baba, vertical ang ating pagtitingnan, now we will be looking at strike slip fault on sides or horizontal. Okay, so just like in the image, you would notice that the river now is not connected to the next or the river line, the river dun sa kabila. Okay, due to now to the strike slip fault or the movement horizontally. When we talk about strike-slip fault, if the far side of the fault moves to the left relative to the observer, it is called sinistral strike-slip fault. And kapag sa may left daw gumalaw papunta from the observer, it is your, again, sinistral strike-slip fault. And kapag naman to the right is your dextral slip fault. Other types of your faults is your oblique fault, caused by both deep slip fault and strike slip fault. Okay? Combination of shearing and tension compression forces. Compressional forces. Hindi lang itong oblique ay pababa or pataas pa side ang nangyayari. Unlike for the other, yung mga nauna ay isang way lang, pataas or pa baba. Here's an image for to compare now our dip slip fault, the normal and the reverse, and the strike slip fault. And lastly, we have here a oblique slip fault kung saan merong movement pataas and then paside, horizontally. Okay. Another type of fault is your Horst and Graben. Refer to the regions that lie between normal faults and are either higher or lower than the area beyond the fault. So ito yung mga nasa gitna ng or nasa region na kung saan ang normal faults ay higher and lower areas. Normal fault in Mosaic Canyon in Death Valley. And if you would notice in the image, hindi pantay-pantay yung ating mga magkakakulay. Okay? Meaning yung magkakakulay, meaning the same po ang pinanggalingan niyang rock type, but hindi na sila pantay. Ibig sabihin, there is a change or nagkaroon ng fault between or movement within the rock. Another type is your reverse fault. Yan, mapapansin natin yung magkakaparehas na hindi magkakalinya. The Rocky Mountains are part of a deep slip fault, okay? San Andreas Fault in California. Ayan, very obvious ang fault in California. That's why in California, madalas ang earthquake. And closer to home, we have here your Marikina Valley Fault System, kung saan ay mahaba-haba ang Valley Fault System. And if you remember, there are studies due to the movement or na ina-expect ang movement of the Marikina Valley Fault System that it will affect the whole Philippines for sure. Not only in the NCR, but for sure there will be movements then around the Philippines kung magmo-move talaga ang ating fault system na ito. Yan po ang image natin for the Pikyang Fault, the prominent strike-slip fault in Kepingshan Trust Belt in the northwestern Tarim Basin in China. Okay, let's now talk about your fold. Fold occurs when one or a stack of regionally flat and planar surfaces, such as sedimentary strata, are bent or curved as a result of permanent deformation. Okay, so if you would notice in this one, hindi po nag-break yung ating mismong rock, but ano po, there are changes or nagkaroon ng bending pataas pababa due now to the pressure sa ilalim, okay, or the folding. The types of folds now, we have here, simplest type of fold, your monoclines, occurs when the horizontal layers are bent upward, okay, so that the two limbs of the fold are still horizontal. Ayan. Another one has synclines. Fold structures between the original rock layer have been folded downward, and the two limbs of the fold dip inward toward the hinge of the fold. Bababa ang ating fold, just like bending your ruler or bending your folder, yan po, or a paper, yan, just like your synclines. And of course, dapat bababa ang ating fold. Your anticlines, reverse naman to ng sync folds kung saan pataas naman po ang ating yung bump na nagagawa natin. So fold structures or anticlines are now fold structures formed when the original rock layers have been folded upward and the two limbs of the fold dip away from the hinge of the fold. fold rather, is an image of the monocline, syncline, and anticline. Okay? And we have here crystal folding. Yan po ang kanyang image. And for our folds as well, synclines and anticlines usually occur together. Okay? Such that the limb of a syncline is also the limb of the anticline. The anticline may form mountains, hills, or ridges, while the syncline may form valleys. So, in summary, your anticlines are, it forms or gumagawa siya ng mountains or hills or your ridges, while your synclines now form your valleys. Okay? So, that's it for our folds and faults. We have here, we discussed earlier what the folds and faults. We also discussed about strain and stress. Ayan. So again, if you do have questions regarding our topic for today, I really hope ilagay nyo siya sa comment down sa comment box below. And if you like my videos, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. And para ma-notify ka for my next videos, please hit the notification bell to get more updated. Ayan. So again, this is Sir AJ, helping you with your lessons during our new normal education. So have a great day, everyone. Take care and bye-bye.